Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
Everything that we do has to remain cutting edge.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
Without having something like this, we would always be one step behind.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Police, get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department busts into the house of a suspect.
You right, we got a warrant.
One claimer discovers that no win, no fee doesn't apply to fraud.
Somewhat surprisingly and shockingly, found that no, she was not on that bus.
And a supposedly injured fraudster's story falls apart.
Most striking thing of the 12 days footage is there was no wheelchair.
Being a fraudster is a full-time job, as one would-be conman found to his cost when he failed to keep up his deception whilst under surveillance. In 2006, lorry driver Graeme Love was the victim of a minor road traffic incident. The details were passed to the driver's insurer. On the face of it, this was a straightforward low-speed collision, as CEO David Slater reveals.
Mr. Loveday was driving along the road and he passed a petrol station, and as he passed the petrol station, our policyholder pulled out and hit the rear wheel. Mr. Loveday initially went for a medical report, and that report initially said that he got a whiplash injury with some bruising, and that the whole injury would resolve itself inside 5 to 8 months.
So far, so simple. Graeme stood to gain the standard amount of compensation for whiplash, around £2,500. But 12 months after the accident, things seemed to take a dramatic turn for the worse.
Then subsequently went for a second medical report about a year later, and in fact at that medical report the doctor was unable to assess him because he said he was unable to get out of his wheelchair.
It was an astonishing development. Mr. Loveday's condition had deteriorated to the point where he claimed he often required a wheelchair, and even on good days had difficulty getting around.
And he subsequently claimed that he was pretty much wheelchair bound, and obviously had constant pain all the time, and was unable to do many of the basic tasks of everyday living and needed extensive care from his wife.
It wasn't just physical injuries. He also said he was suffering psychologically.
Mr. Loveday also claimed that he had a phobia of car travel. So he literally said that if he got into a car, that would immediately make him vomit.
With such extensive injuries, the claim for treatment and care was mounting.
Our legal advice was that in this case, the cost to us would have been approximately £1 million.
The insurer was becoming suspicious.
I think the first thing that rang alarm bells to us with this claim was when we received that second medical report. Certainly if someone has got an injury so severe that they're going to be wheelchair bound, normally that will be apparent very early on.
It just didn't add up.
We had these two medical reports showing completely different injuries, so clearly we wanted to get to the truth of whether the injury really was anywhere near as severe as he was now alleging.
The insurer went straight to a group of specialist undercover investigators, led by Tim Young.
Ultimately, our task is to gain an objective slice of their life. So it's simply a case of turning up and maximising the amount of footage that we can get so that others within the legal process can form a good, objective opinion of someone's capabilities.
Their mission was to covertly film Graeme Loveday to see if he was as injured as he claimed.
The Graeme Loveday case centred around the fact that we were dealing with an individual who was purportedly suffering from some form of physical disability, but not only that, there was psychological trauma as well. Around the area of his home address and around the overall area, he was presenting himself as a male who was actually quite disabled and walked in such a way as to suggest that he had a fairly significant disability.
What they saw at first seemed to fit with his statements, but then they got a tip-off that changed everything.
We've been informed that he was likely to be going on holiday, so we placed him under surveillance over a given period of time.
Claimant is now getting inside the driver's seat.
The man who claimed to be sick when he was inside a car was observed driving for several hours to his holiday destination.
He was found to travel from where he lived in South Wales all the way to the Isle of Wight.
Now with a left indication. Left indication.
It's a significant journey for someone who is purportedly nervous of driving and incapable, I guess, of sitting for long periods of time as well.
The surprises continued. Far from appearing tired or anxious after the lengthy journey, on arrival he seemed rejuvenated and was walking freely.
The contrast in his abilities and his overall demeanour was very significant. He was totally relaxed.
As he unwinds in what he thinks is the safety of a secluded campsite, he starts to demonstrate signs of his true physical ability.
I think that one of the most interesting pieces of footage that we gained was him lifting a generator.
He's now lifting something heavy out of awning.
And actually starting the petrol generator, so like a lawnmower, starting the engine in that way.
It seems to be pulling at something, i.e. a generator pull call to start.
On his return from holiday, he continues to perform a variety of strenuous physical activities.
There were a number of other specific examples. So, for example, he's seen servicing a car, which obviously involves a lot of bending over, which clearly you would not expect someone who's wheelchair-bound to be able to do.
The length of the surveillance meant they hadn't just caught him on a good day.
There was 12 days footage in total. We'd obviously been told that Mr. Loveday was wheelchair-bound. He needed a wheelchair if he travelled any distance at all. And the most striking thing of the 12 days footage is there was no wheelchair. It was very clear to us in this case that Mr. Loveday was grossly exaggerating the extent of his injuries. It was really rather difficult not to be absolutely certain that this was a fairly audacious attempt at a major fraud.
They had all the evidence they needed. The next step was to bring Graeme Loveday to justice.
This case ended up in court. We felt it was really important to make it clear that Saga Insurance is not going to tolerate frauds of this type. Judge found Mr. Loveday guilty. Mr. Loveday was sentenced to 9 months in prison. Yeah, I think Mr. Loveday's motivation was undoubtedly agreed to try and get some more money. We certainly fought him in this case, yes.
A pair of claimers ashamed on camera.
Our expert didn't accept that there was any possibility whatsoever that they'd been injured.
In the fight against the growing problem of insurance fraud, an elite squad have come together to form IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Insurance fraud isn't a victimless crime. £50 of each premium you pay each year goes to the fraudsters. We have been set up to tackle that problem.
This dedicated team works tirelessly to bang up the crooks and con men getting rich off other people's money.
It is our intention to create a climate of fear for the fraudster. There's every chance that an IFED detective may come knocking on their door to arrest them for committing an insurance fraud.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
By April 2012, after only 6 months of operating, they had already busted 80 fraudsters, adding up to £12 million of fraud under investigation.
These people are criminals. These are nasty people. They don't go out to work on a Monday morning like most people do. Their work is submitting insurance fraud claims.
Today, the IFED team, led by DS Mark Forster, has come to raid the home of a suspect wanted for questioning about car insurance fraud.
But this particular individual accepted numerous motor insurance policies. We think somewhere in the region, just this one company, somewhere in the region of 60 or 70 motor insurance policies. The insurer puts the loss at somewhere in the region of £50,000.
The large number of motor insurance policies belonging to the suspect has led IFED to believe this indicates fraudulent activity. They want to arrest the suspect and question him in detail about what's going on.
Got the warrant then?
They're not expecting the inhabitants of the house to be cooperative and are ready to break their way in if needed.
Open up, please! Put the door in 3 seconds! Police, get back! Police! Get back! Stay where you are!
You're right, we got a warrant. Do you want to get yourself up, Donny?
Get back, Lloyd.
You're decent at the moment under there?
The first person they find is the mother of the suspect.
She's laying in bed, she's just getting up now, and we're obviously speaking to her to try and find out where her son is. We'll crack on with a search now. We've got a warrant to execute a search at this premises, OK, and that's been authorised by the City London Magistrates Court. It's in relation to fraud-related offences concerning your son.
Well, he lives at I kicked him out, actually.
Do you know the address where he's staying at the moment?
No, I don't.
Do you have a contact number for him? That'll be a good start for 10.
While Mark questions the suspect's mother in the lounge, the team starts searching the rest of the house. The hunt is on for documentary evidence linking the suspect to the fraud, so the case stands up in court. Unconvinced that the suspect has actually moved out, they focus on an upstairs room that might be his bedroom. But the first thing they find could be proof of an altogether different sort of crime: illegal drugs.
So there's cannabis in which bedroom?
There's 2 bags there. These are all empty bags with bits and remnants in.
There's an amount of cannabis upstairs in that bedroom, and there's a small amount down here as well. So obviously we're going to be seizing that and speaking to them more about who's around ownership possession of that.
The search continues. The next thing they discover is a hidden safe concealed behind a fireplace.
Did you last access this safe? Whose safe is it?
The key's been left in the door, so it's a simple job to open it up. Could this be where the evidence they need is stashed?
I'm arresting you on suspicion of possessing a controlled drug, cannabis.
Some chancers take advantage of genuine collisions to cheat their way to money they don't deserve. But insurers and transport companies are fighting back, using every high-tech tool at their disposal. CCTV is one of them. From time to time, buses are involved in minor incidents. Huyton bus station was the scene of one such incident. Valda Grant handled the case.
It was a number 15 bus travelling into Huyton bus station in the northwest. The bus was going slowly into the bus station, and there were some railings on his left-hand side, and he caught the railings with the bus as he was pulling into the bus station.
Not long after, the bus company heard from 2 of the passengers who'd been on board at the time.
These were 2 17-year-old passengers on the bus, and they both claimed they'd got whiplash injury. 2 with whiplash injury. One said she'd a shoulder injury because she banged her shoulder against the window.
This was an unexpected outcome, which didn't tally with the slow speed of the impact. The bus company wasted no time in checking the onboard CCTV to see if the footage supported the claims. The women can clearly be seen on the bus, but at no point do they seem to sustain any injury from a collision. In fact, the incident is so low impact, the passengers aren't even seen moving. When the women leave the bus, they even appear to be smiling.
When we got our own medical expert, we sent him the CCTV, plus the claimant's witness statements where they explain what happened in the accident and how they were injured. Our expert didn't accept that there was any possibility whatsoever that they'd been injured.
The civil claim proceeded to court, and the bus company used the footage to make their case. Luckily, justice prevailed.
The court dismissed the claim, and the claimants didn't receive any damages.
Without CCTV cameras, it could have been a very different result, and the two women might have got away with their false claim.
It is a sad state of affairs that you need the CCTV, but it would be sadder if we didn't have them, because we would not be able to fight these claims.
When it comes to trying their luck with bus companies, some claimers are even more shameless than the previous pair. At least they were on the bus in question. The next story concerns a would-be fraudster who attempted to claim for injuries that she couldn't possibly have suffered. Jonathan Crooks, the manager of Transcare Law, works for the bus company involved and investigated the case.
Anissa Nasser was in Queen Street bus station in Liverpool.
It's a busy station, and one of the buses was hit at low speed by another bus. Not long afterwards, the company was contacted by Anissa Nasser.
When she presented a claim for personal injury on the basis that she had been an occupant of the bus when it was hit. She claimed that she was jolted and that she suffered whiplash-type injuries to her neck.
The case was passed on to one of the bus company's own claims handlers.
Our claims handler will have checked the CCTV footage from the inside of the bus to make sure that Anissa Nasser was indeed on the bus when it was hit.
What they saw blew her claim out of the water.
Somewhat surprisingly and shockingly, found that no, she was not on that bus. In fact, the camera showed her standing in the bus station watching what was happening.
Watching what was happening and clearly coming up with a scheme to scam money from the bus company. The pictures show her stood outside the bus, watching the impact, and then getting on the bus that was hit after the collision had happened. The CCTV pictures were more than enough evidence for the bus company to reject her claim, but they didn't stop there.
Also, what she didn't realise was that she wasn't in a no-lose situation, because once we'd rejected her claim for compensation, we were determined not to let matters lie there, and that we would try and, as a deterrence for other people, take her to court.
It was impossible to argue with the evidence from the CCTV camera, and Anissa Nasser was found guilty.
The sentence for Miss Nasser was a 4-month suspended prison sentence, 180 hours community service, and she had to pay the prosecution legal costs as well.
But perhaps she's paid an even greater cost than the sentence itself.
She's got a criminal record now. A lot of doors are now shut to her in terms of future employment, applications for mortgages, etc., etc. People just seem to think that they can take an opportunistic pop at people like us, and they live to regret it.
Technology is a key weapon in the fight against insurance fraud. Our next would-be swindler was caught out when she failed to cover her tracks and left an electronic footprint leading to her downfall. In 2011, Jodie Jackman was one of the drivers in a serious car accident. It involved 2 motors and a total of 7 people, including the other driver, Katie Ashcroft. Jodie reported the accident to her insurer and accepted liability. Claire Laver is a lawyer who worked on the case for the insurer.
7 claims for personal injury and other vehicle-related losses were made. The third-party driver received a sum of money for the damage to her vehicle, as did the policyholder, and in total that was around about £11,000.
This payout covered the damage to both cars and the personal injury claims for all 7 people involved. That appeared to be that, until, due to an unrelated matter, Jodie was suspended from her admin job. A routine trawl through her work email account by her employers revealed a surprising email exchange.
Where they had suggested getting involved in fabricating an accident and making a fraudulent claim.
Swiftcover's Chief Claims Officer, Robin Reams, was passed the full details of the incriminating exchange. One email from Katie to Jodie reads,
"All we got to do is carry out instructions when given. You've got 3 in your car. Looks better if we both get handled by different people."
Jodie replies,
"I'm scared, me."
Katie reassures her.
"I'm scared too. Both the guys have done it before, so it's sweet."
It was very clear from the emails that this was a deliberate attempt to defraud an insurer by creating an accident that didn't take place and for 7 people to make personal injury claims that they didn't suffer.
Further digging revealed the motive behind the fraudulent claim was financial.
The 2 girls were undergoing some financial strain at the time. One of them had a loan with a loan shark, another one had some £5,000 worth of debt.
They were desperately in need of the £11,000 payout from the insurer. It turned out they had maximised their money by persuading 5 other people to pretend they were passengers and put in fake injury claims. All 7 were taken to court.
The result of the court case was that 7 pleaded guilty to conspiracy to defraud, and of those, 3 received a 12-week custodial sentence, suspended for 1 year, and the other 4 received a 6-month community order. This seemed to be an opportunity for them to make some quick cash. The result is it didn't work out that way. They got caught. They lost their jobs, they have a criminal record, and it sends a very clear message to fraudsters out there that we will find them and we will do all we can to protect innocent, law-abiding policyholders.
But the story didn't end there. The insurance company decided to pursue the women for the money they cheated out of them.
They will have to pay back the £11,000 that was paid to them by Swiftcover in the end anyway. So it was a completely pointless exercise which has left them much worse off than they'd intended.
The Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, IFED, has come to arrest a suspect they believe is involved in car insurance fraud. He's nowhere to be seen, but they've chanced upon a hidden safe, which they're hoping will contain some of the evidence they need to make the case stand up.
Do you last access this safe?
As they go through the contents, they find an array of checkbooks and documents, which they bag up for further investigation.
It's a security measure to make sure that, should they be subject to the burglary, that nobody gets all their banking details, all their checkbooks, credit cards, passports, etc. Quite ironic, really.
But there's still no sign of the suspect. IFED persuaded the mother to hand over a contact number for her son, but they've had no luck with that either.
It's just going straight through to voicemail. We've left him a number of voicemails, asking him basically to get in touch with us, to basically get himself here.
Their persistence pays off, and he eventually rings back.
Where are you? Sheffield. What are you doing up there? What vehicle are you driving? How are you going to get in?
IFED has done their homework on the suspect. When they eventually make contact, they deliberately reveal some of the information they have, so he knows they're onto him.
I know which vehicles you've got access to. I just want to know which vehicle you're going to come in.
Meanwhile, the family guard dog seems to be having an off day.
Focus, brilliant. So you're going to be here in an hour? Don't muck me about. I'm trusting you now to turn up here within the hour. Lovely. See you then.
Usually we find that that's enough to draw him back to home, as it were, especially when his mum's here on her own.
Although the suspect has promised to return home, there's still no sign of him after 45 minutes. The IFED team is starting to lose patience. Suddenly, another call comes in, but it's not from the suspect. It's from a man who says he's his lawyer.
I'm going to put the phone down in a minute, sir, right?
The lawyer explains that the suspect won't be coming to the house as promised. The IFED team thinks they smell a rat.
If he's a professional solicitor, he's just laughing down the phone to me. Anyway, that's a nice distraction for us. Where were we?
Their search is turning up an ever-increasing quantity of drugs.
While we're sitting here, there's a waft of, quite a strong waft of cannabis coming from just behind where my colleague sat there, and so that's like the third and fourth sort of small quantity of cannabis we found in the house now, in sort of 3 or 4 different rooms.
With drugs uncovered in several locations around the property, it's important that IFED investigates the illegal substances thoroughly. The mother is the only person in the house, and Mark takes the decision to arrest her in connection with the drugs.
She's the only one on the premises, and there's drugs all over it, so she can come in.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of possessing a controlled drug, cannabis, and on suspicion
What, tiny
of
mouth?
conspiring to defraud. The cannabis that's been
God.
found in this house.
So.
What? Right, a joint.
What? There's been cannabis found in this
Yeah,
house.
a joint.
Up
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's an offence.
Just then, the suspect calls again.
Hello, was that you? I've had a few phone calls from Mohammed. He tells me that you want to turn up at the police station, not come here. And the time, you've got 15 minutes to get here, so you've run out of time.
You're arresting me.
Why am I arresting her? For cannabis possession and conspiracy to defraud. Your timing couldn't have been more impeccable. She's just been arrested and she's going to the police station. Are you coming to the home or to the police station?
There's scales, there's grinders used for grinding down cannabis resin and bits and pieces like that. Scales for weighing the drugs out.
Suddenly, there's a commotion at the door as someone tries to enter.
Oh, mate, hang on. Who's that? Hang on, fella.
It's her son, but unfortunately not the son IFED is after.
Yeah, well, just leave it, man. What can I do? I've just woke up, man. Get that out, my face.
Although they didn't get their hands on the suspect, IFED has found significant amounts of potential evidence to help with their case. It's been a successful raid. Mark is confident they'll eventually get their man.
He is a very well-known person and he will come sooner or later to our attention or to the police's attention, and he'll get arrested sooner rather than later if he fails to give himself up today. So we will catch up with him eventually. Would have been nice to have got him today, but like I say, we've secured all the evidence from the house, so we're not going to lose anything in relation to our investigation.
The police eventually arrested the suspect and questioned him about the alleged fraud. He and his mother are currently on bail, and the investigation is ongoing. In the short amount of time that IFED has been in existence, the team has had a huge impact, investigating over 300 suspected insurance scams and taking the fight to the fraudsters. Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
The CCTV cameras are the best tool we've got in our fight against fraud.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
This is connected to a bank account and a second mobile phone number.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Police, get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, a specialist police fraud unit is on the hunt for fake pet insurance claims. A crash for cash gang pick a big victim.
And the infectious brake, yeah. Got it.
And an insurer is taken for a ride.
This is a guy who claims that he'll never be able to work again and is in pretty well constant pain.
All of these collisions are crash for cash attempts. Crash for cash is a term given to collisions executed in order to make money from motor insurance policies. And it's rife. A recent poll found that 5% of drivers under the age of 35 have staged an accident in order to make a fraudulent insurance claim. But crash for cash is not an opportunistic crime. It's organised, often by gangs. Simply slamming on the brakes in front of a victim would attract suspicion, so the crash gangs have evolved a devious two-car tactic. First, the gang choose a victim. Then they move their two cars into position in front of the target. Gang car number 1 then slams on its brakes. Gang car 2 reacts by braking hard, resulting in a rear-end shunt from the victim. Gang car 1 then turns off at the next possible turning, pretending to be unaware of the crash. The march of the Crash for Cash gangs isn't going unchecked. A specialist unit from the Metropolitan Police is determined to remove these fraudsters from our roads.
Any tactic that we can think of, we will use to catch these people.
One of the unit's most powerful tools is video surveillance.
Both vehicles now in the offside lane of 2.
It's September 2007. A Crash for Cash gang is being filmed on the A41. The gang is setting up a grocery van for a smash.
Yes, it's the offside lane towards the Mike 25. And
the gang didn't randomly pick the grocery van as a victim. They chose it because it's a fleet vehicle.
The reason for choosing a fleet vehicle is that they're insured, and that's what they're interested in. They're interested in whoever hits them is insured, so they can maximise their claim and not be worried about being run into by a non-insured driver.
The gang move in on the innocent van driver. Car number 1 is about to slam on its brakes, forcing car 2 to react.
Yes, it's the offside lane towards the Mike 25. And the infectious brake, yeah, got it. Yeah.
Car 1, the decoy, has driven off, leaving car 2 to make the claim against the innocent grocer.
Yeah, the lorry's now just gone into the back of the Jaguar.
And have obtained.
We have obtained.
We started looking at this organised criminal gang.
Asian male 1 now out of the vehicle and the subject.
This smash was one of 3 claims the gang made, totalling £55,000. Thanks to the video evidence, they didn't keep a penny.
All 6 were convicted. The main ringleader receiving some 8 months imprisonment, and the remaining 5 2-year suspended sentences.
These fraudsters were off the roads, but the Met Traffic Unit is fighting a constant battle against Crash for Cash gangs. In the autumn of 2009, the unit discovered another crash gang, and once again a fleet vehicle was the target.
It involved three lads who decided to basically create a slam-on in front of a vehicle.
The blue car ahead is planning to execute a Crash for Cash manoeuvre. They're not using a decoy car and simply plan to surprise the driver of the fleet vehicle. The van driver falls into their trap.
The reason they stated for them to do an emergency stop was because there was a bus stop, and there was a bus at the bus stop, and there was a woman stepping off the bus onto the road, and that was the reason why they stopped.
But the fraudsters are out of luck, as the camera fitted to the fleet vehicle reveals the truth of the matter.
As you see on the footage, there is a bus stop, but there is no bus, and there certainly isn't a woman stepping onto the road. When I saw the evidence, I thought it was very audacious, and I was very surprised that someone could be so blatant just to slam on for no apparent reason in the middle of a busy junction on a busy road, with no regard whatsoever to the chaos that causes.
At Croydon Crown Court, all 3 occupants of the car were found guilty of fraud by false representation, and each sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. A satisfactory outcome for the owners of the fleet vehicle, online grocer Ocado.
Specifically targeting our drivers is very distressing for them. It feels a bit like being mugged. It also affects their professional pride in the job that they do. Where we believe there's a fraudulent crash, we will pursue it right through the court system. There's no debate about that at all. We'll take it all the way.
This sort of crime is probably a growing trend in this country now. If people go to prison, they might think twice about doing it.
Brake, yeah.
There is absolutely the potential that a staged fraudulent accident can kill someone. There's no doubt about that. It's an accident, and it has all the same dangers as any other road accident.
A police unit raids the home of a suspected insurance fraudster.
Yeah, okay.
A corner shop in Barnsley gets torched.
She lied to her family, she's lied to her friends, and she lied to the police about what happened.
And a private investigator closes in on a shamed claimer.
During the footage, it clearly shows him going up 40, 50 feet high in order to get on a ride.
In the fight against the growing problem of insurance fraud, an elite police squad have come together to form IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Insurance fraudsters are hitting us in our pockets. That's not right. IFED have been set up to combat that problem, and we will do so by making arrests all over the country.
This dedicated team works tirelessly to bang up the crooks and con men getting rich off other people's money.
If you commit insurance fraud, there's every chance that IFED are going to come knocking on your door and bringing you to justice.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
By April 2012, after only 6 months of operating, they had already busted 80 fraudsters, adding up to £12 million of fraud under investigation.
Insurance fraud is seen at the moment as an easy touch. IFED are setting out to stop that and make these organised crime groups think again.
IFED investigates every type of insurance fraud: personal injury, buildings, holiday, even pet insurance fraud. Fraudulent pet insurance claims rose from £420,000 in 2009 to £1.92 million in 2011, a nearly 5-fold increase over 2 years. Today, IFED is planning a raid on a suspect known to have a long track record of claiming against multiple insurance policies.
I've in fact dealt with her earlier this year about a number of cases, in fact 8 cases in total. This time when I arrest her, I'm going to have to be interviewing her about another 20 cases.
As well as making numerous home contents claims, she has submitted a large number of pet insurance claims with different insurers.
I'm just getting the paperwork together, and we're going to have to move quite quickly on this and arrest her sooner rather than later, because the claims keep on coming in.
On the raid, the IFED team will be keen to establish whether any of the supposedly deceased dogs are still alive.
We've got information to suggest there is one Chihuahua which is alive, but we think there might be other dogs there as well. We're also going to be looking for computers and telephones, and you know, for evidence of her applying for the insurance policies. It's hard to separate, you know, fact from fiction. She comes up with a whole lot of stories, so we're going to have to be careful with the way we deal with her.
The team members arrive outside the suspect's house. Not knowing what to expect, they leave nothing to chance and put on protective equipment.
Hello, Alex Cooley. Yeah, we met in January, didn't we?
What's happened now?
Do you want to take a seat? No, okay. Take a seat and I'll explain. I'm going to arrest you for a whole number of fake insurance claims.
With access to the property gained, T.I. Cooley explains to the suspects what they're looking for.
We need to look for evidence, basically, to confirm what dogs you have, yeah, and to look for documentation to the insurance policies, okay? So, how many Chihuahuas? I saw one standing up.
Staffy type pit bull, so just go easy. He looks like he's ready to jump.
Yeah, okay. Here's dog legs.
To shut that door, I don't intend to search that.
We do need to get her to the police station as soon as practical. We're going to have a look and we're going to search the house for evidence relating to the insurance fraud.
Before taking the suspect into custody, the IFED team ask her to direct them to any documents relating to insurance.
Is there anything here that you can help us with to quicken our search? Any paperwork relating to those insurance claims?
What, the claims that have gone on already, or?
Anything to do with insurance? Any claims?
And then now clothes off, please. There's that one.
Thank you. Can you just place it on there for us?
Sorry, yeah.
Anything like that.
The suspect is compliant. She shows the team where to find the paperwork it has come for.
If you just leave that there, we'll wait for details, we won't take it with us. Yeah.
Is there anything upstairs in your bedroom?
The suspect is taken into custody for further questioning, leaving IFED to search the whole house for evidence of multiple fraudulent pet insurance claims. IFED's search for evidence keeps running into little interruptions. Personal injury insurance exists to help us when, due to an accident, we are unable to work or need money for extra care. And like motor insurance, it's being abused by dishonest claimants. The number of personal injury claims received by insurers leapt 72% between 2002 and 2010, a figure that is set to rise. In 2007, this man was injured at work.
The claimant had been operating a burger van. He was mopping up at the end of the day, and somebody had collided with the rear of it, as a result of which he'd sustained damage to both knees.
Due to his knee injuries, the burger van owner sought compensation. Stating that he was no longer able to work, he claimed for £425,000 in lost future earnings. On top of that, he made a further claim for adaptations to his property.
Shortly after the firm was instructed, we received a request for an interim payment to enable this guy to adapt his house to fit a through lift, a downstairs bathroom and a downstairs toilet, suggesting a very high level of disability indeed.
This was an unforeseen expense for the insurer, but before they paid out on any adaptations to the burger van owner's house, some information about the claimant was discovered.
Some medical evidence, though, emerged which suggested that he had convictions for fraud and dishonesty, as a result of which they became particularly interested in the possibility that this claim might be one that they should be looking at very hard.
The insurer was suspicious of the claimant. They decided to call in the help of a private investigator.
Insurers will sometimes commission surveillance when they believe that the injury which is being claimed does not support the level of damages which is beginning to emerge, and that was certainly the case here.
The nature of his work means the investigator needs to remain anonymous.
We specialise in surveillance as a company, and as a percentage, 75% of the surveillance we carry out is insurance fraud or insurance-related surveillance.
Due to an anonymous tip-off, the private investigator was instructed to film the claimant for a whole Sunday.
The solicitor was very keen for us to place the claimant under surveillance that particular weekend, so it was one Friday evening that I received a call on my mobile from the solicitor, and we dispatched a surveillance team. You know, it's very short notice for us to get the surveillance team and unit together and deployed out to the claimant's home address. He did come out of the house in the morning, seemed to be loading up and sorting out his car. Well, what unfolded was incredible, really.
The claimant was on a day trip to an amusement park. After buying himself a ticket, the private investigator entered the park and set about surveying the claimant.
We filmed him as and when it was possible. At the theme park, he was going on rides, and he did have a walking stick with him, but it didn't seem as though he was using it in a weight-bearing capacity.
The video evidence showed a man capable of walking without the aid of a stick and comfortably handling a fairground mallet.
Later on during the day, you know the strongman hammer, you bang it with a mallet and up it goes and you're trying to hit the bell. He was filmed using one of those. And this is a guy who claims that he'll never be able to work again. He's totally restricted with his mobility and is in pretty well constant pain.
That day, his claim to need a stair lift and downstairs bathroom was also to be dispelled.
It's interesting that he claimed that he needed a ground floor bathroom and a stair lift. However, during the footage, it clearly shows him going up 40, 50 feet high in order to get on a ride.
The surveillance op filmed the claimant managing a 4-storey ascent before shooting down an amusement ride.
At the end of the day, the camera does not lie, and you can't argue the case. The video footage clearly shows an individual who is exaggerating his symptoms. From the time he left his home address to going back after he'd been to the theme park, he was out for approximately 10 hours of the day.
In the face of such overwhelming evidence, the burger van owner had no choice but to accept a vastly reduced payout.
The result of all this was that a claim which was originally put at £800,000 settled for a very small fraction of that indeed. In addition to getting his small percentage of what he claimed, there was also a costs order against him. This is another case where I'd be very surprised if the claimant came out any better off than he went in.
I would say the general public would think, hang on a minute, I pay huge premiums for my motor insurance, for my household insurance, and they seem to be going out every single year, way above the rate of inflation. And the reason they're going up is because we have become a claim culture. This person's really exaggerating and they're defrauding the system. And as a result of these individuals, our claims are going through the roof.
Most business premises in the UK are insured against property damage. A sensible measure when you consider that in the UK in 2009, large-scale fire damage costs totalled £865 million. Shockingly, 40% of all fires at commercial premises are subsequently found to have been arson. Meet Sukhjit Kaur. She and her husband used to own D&S Super Save, a corner shop in Barnsley, South Yorkshire. D&S Super Save had been serving the needs of East Barnsley until a terrible event destroyed the family business.
It was 3:30 in the morning, the 9th of March 2010, when the police received a call from Mrs. Carr. Mrs. Carr was in a very hysterical state. And she was at a neighbour's address at the time. The neighbour took over the call and the information was passed through the neighbour to the effect that 3 masked men had gone into Mrs. Carr's home address, held them knife point, her and her husband and a small child. For a number of hours they'd been held hostage at knife point, and just prior to leaving the address, the masked men set fire to the premises.
Her husband was also asked about the masked gang.
Mr. Singh maintained the same story, that 3 masked men had gone into the house, held them at knife point, and set fire to the premises.
Sukhjit and her husband claimed to have been subjected to a frightening attack, lost their livelihood, and nearly killed in their own home. Their neighbour, Jean Kay, was also affected by the fire.
The neighbour was very shook up. It was 3:30 in the morning. She was asleep in bed. She was awoken by the sound of an explosion, which was probably from aerosols within the store. When she woke, the house was smoke-filled. She did suffer from smoke inhalation, and she had to be taken to hospital for treatment. Had she not woke up, it could have been much more serious.
Having survived the ordeal, Mrs. Kaur informed her insurer of the event, submitting a claim for £166,000. With this payout, Sukhjit and her husband could rebuild their business. Their insurer began to process their claim, but soon hit a snag.
We discovered that she'd taken a policy out one day before the fire.
This coincidence raised the suspicion of the insurer, so they looked into the financial state of the couple. It didn't look good.
Mrs. Kaur told our loss adjuster that the business had been in financial difficulty for some years. They used to run a post office which went, and for the last 6-7 years they'd had great difficulty in surviving, and she'd borrowed lots of money from a local money lender. She didn't admit to the loss adjuster or to us exactly how much she owed, but we know, having done the background checks in terms of financial status, and this is in the public domain, that she owed up to, or she had CCJs to the value of £150,000.
With a business deeply in debt and a potential insurance payout of £166,000, the insurer had good reason to suspect Sukhjit and her husband were involved in the arson. So South Yorkshire Police brought her in for questioning.
When we first spoke to Mrs. Cower, she broke down and told us that she was in a lot of debt and that she was involved. That led to her arrest, and she was formally interviewed at the police station. And it was during that interview that she confessed to being involved in setting the fire for the purpose of making an insurance claim.
Although she confessed to the crime, Sukhjit insisted the plan hadn't been her idea.
She owed a lot of money to the loan shark, and he wanted his money back. So what he suggested to her, put in a large insurance fraud. He would organise people to come into the shop at the dead of night and actually set the fire.
At Sheffield Crown Court, Sukhjit Kaur was sentenced to 5 years for conspiracy to defraud, later reduced to 4 years on appeal. For his part in the deception, her husband was sentenced to 3 years.
She had, of her own accord, managed to get herself into a lot of debt. She couldn't manage that debt. She could see no way out of that debt. She lied to her family, she's lied to her friends, and she lied to the police about what happened.
When we found out they'd been given custodial sentences, for us at Allianz it was a very pleasing outcome. It sends a message out that insurance fraud is no longer a victimless crime. There are victims, and you won't get away with it.
Today, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, IFED, has raided the property of a woman suspected of multiple attempts of pet insurance fraud. She's been taken into custody, leaving the team to search her property for evidence. Her boyfriend has just arrived outside.
Oh, the boyfriend's here, right, okay. She's just with the female officer because we're going to be questioning her today in police station. Well, she was dealt with for a number of offences earlier in the year, as you know. Unfortunately, there are offences which have occurred more recently, and some going back over the last couple of years.
IFED resumes its search. Just like the suspect, her boyfriend proves to be helpful in the hunt for evidence.
I'm Steve.
The search for evidence spreads to the first floor of the property.
I'll take these two because they're just related to her identity documents.
You give that back an highway.
Yeah, she'll be entitled to everything back.
In less than an hour, the team has unearthed several bags of potential evidence relating to pet insurance claims. Making the search more complicated is the fact that the suspect goes under several aliases.
That's Mrs.
The missus?
Yeah.
Even after an hour, the team still isn't used to the smaller inhabitants of the house.
Oh, look around. Oh, how are you?
IFED has seen enough. It has a boot full of potential evidence, leaving the team confident of a conviction.
It is putting money on everyone's insurance policies because the fraud element is always taken into account by the insurers. So hopefully by arresting the suspect today, we'll make some small contribution towards turning things around, so that hopefully one day insurance premiums can start to come down.
If convicted of fraud, the suspect could face a punishing fine and a spell in prison. Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds a year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
How they think they can get away with it, I don't know, when the evidence from the camera is so clear.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
This is connected to a bank account and a second mobile phone number.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Police, get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, a fire investigation team searches for clues amongst the ashes.
Mr. Ross's factory was totally destroyed.
The Met Police execute a raid on a small business. And insurance fraud enters the art world.
25% of my cases will have some insurance fraud element to it.
It's just after 9 p.m. on the 19th of August 2009. A massive fire has engulfed a carpet warehouse at the Knowsley Industrial Park, Liverpool.
Hi, service.
Oh, hi, listen, I'm just working late. My warehouse is on fire, and all outside's on fire.
Well, on the night the call came in, it was about 9:05 in the evening. A fire was reported by a treble 9 call.
It's literally... sorry.
Are you okay?
Initially, the Merseyside Fire Department dispatched 2 fire engines to deal with the blaze. On arrival, Fire Officer Miles Platt knew they would need more help.
I got called to the incident as it was developing. I quickly assessed the scene and I realised that this was a significant blaze. It was a warm summer's evening, there was a strong wind blowing, and this intense fire was spread over a large geographical area. And very quickly I realised that we'd need to get a lot of assets down there on the ground to actually deal with this incident and ultimately extinguish it.
The Merseyside Fire Department arrives to find warehouse owner Elliot Ross watching his business go up in flames.
There was a wide impact, so this significant blaze, there was real fear of that spreading to the adjacent properties, and the amount of water and resources that we got over a fairly long period of time actually to contain that blaze.
The fire was so intense, 6 other businesses on the estate had their buildings damaged by the blaze. It took 12 fire engines to tame the flames.
You've actually got pallets and machinery that's on fire. You've got vehicles in another geographical location which are on fire. We had to shut down roads to access water supplies, to make the public safe.
The destruction to the carpet warehouse was so extensive, business owner Elliot Ross would need to file an insurance claim of £200,000 to cover the damage. The Merseyside Fire Department knew that the fire had started in 3 places. This is very unlikely to occur without human intervention. Someone had deliberately tried to destroy Mr. Elliott's warehouse.
It's a massive operation, and this was a large protracted incident as a result of somebody's setting fire deliberately.
It had become an arson investigation. The case was handed to a brand new team named Flare. Set up in June 2009, Flare is a joint police and fire brigade unit tasked with investigating cases of commercial arson. The team investigating this arson was headed up by Fire Marshal Mark Schuler and DC Karen Nixon.
Mark and I attended the fire the following morning. There was still a lot of fire appliances there tending the fire. There was a huge damage. A number of businesses were affected. One was partly destroyed. Mr. Ross's factory was totally destroyed. So it was a scene of devastation, really.
The Flare unit discovered the fire had been started by 3 disposable barbecues. These barbecues became the starting point for their investigation.
There were 2 of those placed in the pallet yard, which was the adjoining business, and then there was 1 left on the windowsill of Mr. Ross's warehouse.
2 of the barbecues had been destroyed by the fire, but the one left on the windowsill was only half burnt. This barbecue became crucial to the investigation.
Now that barbecue had been stacked with a number of items which were extremely significant and of great value to our investigation, and they included a whole toilet roll, a couple of newspapers, and a piece of cardboard which subsequently was found to be the wrapping of a pair of gloves. We were able to take those very small fragments and be able to backtrack them and source where they'd come from.
The half-burnt toilet roll from the barbecue was sent to a forensic team. Its composition was compared against 44 other types of toilet roll. The results were very interesting. The burnt toilet paper exactly matched rolls stored at the warehouse.
The toilet roll that was recovered in the barbecue at the seat of fire was identical to the toilet rolls that Mr. Elliot Ross had in his premises, and nobody else had those, so it was a very strong link.
This revealed that the fire was started by someone who had access to the warehouse. Warehouse owner Elliot Ross was now on the shortlist of suspects. To narrow the list, Flair turned its attention to another item in the half-burnt barbecue.
Amongst the disposable barbecue at that location, there was a small fragment of cardboard. We found out that that was actually part of a packaging for a protective glove.
The card had come from a box of latex gloves. Crucially, the piece of card had a web address on it, that of the manufacturer. The Flair unit contacted the glove makers.
They were able to tell us that the glove packaging was theirs and that they made them for a well-known large supermarket chain. Significantly for us, that particular packaging had only been available from May of that year, so there was only 43 sales of those gloves in the Merseyside area. But it actually gave us 1 purchase of gloves. That was the night before the arson attack, and it was actually at a large supermarket which was near to where Mr. Ross lived.
From just fragments of evidence, the Flair unit had found a prime suspect. Warehouse owner Elliot Ross. But they would need much more conclusive evidence to prove their suspicions. Technology was to provide the next breakthrough. The Flair unit was granted access to information about Mr. Ross's mobile phone. Specifically, they had a map where the phone was each time it had been used.
We were able to put Mr. Ross within 900 metres of that supermarket on that evening. And then subsequently to that, we got further information which enabled us to actually put him outside and then inside that supermarket at the time of the purchase.
The Flair unit knew it was close and needed one last piece of evidence. So they went back to the supermarket to ask for a detailed list of purchases from the night before the fire. From that, the Flair unit discovered that Mr. Ross had made purchases in the store. Very incriminating purchases. A bottle of flammable liquid. Some extra long matches. And most importantly, the box of latex gloves whose packaging was found stuffed in the half-burnt barbecue. The Flair unit had got its man. At Liverpool Crown Court, Elliot Ross pleaded not guilty. But after a 4-week trial, the jury reached their verdict. He was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison.
Maybe it wasn't his intention to cause so much damage, but he didn't know the risk that he was going to place all those firefighters that had to tackle those 2 seats of fire simultaneously. He didn't think about that, did he?
Yes, I do think Elliot Ross understood the seriousness of his actions. I believe that he planned the fire carefully and that he set it with a view to causing considerable damage in his property so that he could make a fraudulent claim and defraud the insurance company. And I do believe he knew what he was doing when he did it.
The Met Police move in on a suspected fraud gang. And a bus company faces a whiplash claim.
It looks as though the UK public have got the weakest necks in Europe.
If you were involved in a road traffic accident, you might be approached by an accident management company. An honest accident management company will help to process your insurance forms. provide a hire car whilst yours is being fixed, and help with any claims for personal injury you may have suffered. However, the last 10 years have seen a dramatic rise in fraudulent accident management companies. Not just helping, but encouraging people to make fraudulent claims. The rise of these rogue businesses isn't being left unchecked. This is the home of the Met Traffic Unit. Set up in 2009, this specialist department is committed to reducing the number of traffic-related deaths, injuries and crimes on London's roads.
My team will use every method available in order to catch them. Overt tactics, covert tactics, the helicopter, any tactic that we can think of, we will use to catch these people.
One of their missions is to eradicate fraudulent accident management companies. Today, the traffic unit is executing a multiple location raid on an accident management company that's believed to be involved in fraudulent activity.
We're hoping to execute a search warrant and arrest a director of an accident management company that we believe, or certainly suspect, has been involved in arranging induced collisions. And of course, part of today will be to obtain the evidence to support our suspicions. We've certainly been investigating them for some 8 to 9 months now. So we're quite happy that they're involved in criminality.
The small business being raided is suspected to be orchestrating induced collisions, also known as crash for cash. Crash for cash is a term given to collisions executed in order to make money from motor insurance policies. And it's big business. There are an estimated 30,000 crash for cash incidents per year on Britain's roads, valued at least £350 million, adding an average of £44 to your motor insurance bill every year. Also from the Met Traffic Unit is DC E-Stick.
I'll have one uniform with me coming in. Yeah. I mean, the bill works. Mr. Please, can you open up, please?
There's no sign of the suspect. If he's in, he's not opening the door.
I don't think there's anyone in. We've got a warrant, so we're going to have a look inside it. We're going to get the enforcer around to try and do the door, because we've got 2 locks on. That lock's on and that lock's on, so I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for us to open it, Bill.
A local unit is called to batter the door down.
You want to hand it to this chap here to do the biz first? Right, well done, mate. It's all clear, isn't everything?
We've come to the address. The man we were looking for is not present, but we've forced entry because we've got a search warrant, and we're just in the process of searching the premises for any evidence relating to what we're investigating.
The traffic unit starts the search for evidence of fraud.
We're really looking for documentary evidence. We're looking for anything in relation to claims. Surveillance documents and mobile phones.
Very soon, the team accumulates what they came for.
We found quite a lot of documents, a lot of banking documents, and a lot of documents in relation to accidents, even accidents that the actual person's had, who actually owns a flat or lives in the flat. And we found a lot of SIM cards in there as well. So I'm interested to know what that's regarding. Perhaps he's selling them on, or perhaps that's part of a larger conspiracy.
DI Hindmarsh leaves the raid location. He heads off to oversee the search of the HQ of the accident claims company. The Met Traffic Unit continues its search for evidence.
We've got 2 vehicles that we believe have been used in this particular crime. We're going to seize them.
Your car insurance doesn't just cover the cost of vehicle repair. It will also pay your medical bills if you suffer an injury whilst driving. The most common injury sustained in a motor vehicle incident is whiplash.
The most common form of whiplash injury that I see in my surgery results from a rear shunt car accident where the head gets forcibly thrown backwards and then forwards. That causes the muscles and the ligaments about the neck and the shoulder to stretch more than normal, and that causes pain and inflammation.
Despite improvements in car safety features, in the UK, whiplash claims are at an all-time high.
Around about 76% of all bodily injury claims that we receive are for whiplash claims.
Insurers are paying out nearly £2 billion a year to the claimants. The cost to the NHS of treating whiplash has been estimated at £8 million a year.
It looks as though the UK public have got the weakest necks in Europe.
It's the 7th of February 2008, and the Route 9 bus is navigating the busy roads of Luton. Partway through its journey, it's obstructed by a badly parked car. The driver makes a mistake.
He was confronted by a Golf which was parked at a very strange, awkward angle, so he had to slow right down and wait for approaching traffic to go by before he could try and manoeuvre around it. Unfortunately, as he manoeuvred round it, he misjudged the situation and he caught the car as he went by.
The owner of the car, Shazma Dad, takes the details of the Arriva bus and its driver.
Our driver, after the incident, quite rightly accepted that the accident was his fault and filled in the report form. Within 7 days of that incident, a solicitor's letter arrived at Arriva. That letter was claiming not only for the damage to the vehicle, but it was also claiming for personal injury.
Miss Dad reported that the incident had left her with whiplash and difficulty in sleeping. She was now seeking financial compensation from the bus company. As a matter of course, the claims handler compared Miss Dad's account of events against the bus driver's report. The bus driver's report stated that no one was in the car at the time of the incident. Possibly something that could be resolved by one of the 9 cameras on the Arriva bus. And the rear-view camera revealed that Miss Dad was not in her car at the moment it was struck, confirming the bus driver's report. So where was she?
The rear-view camera showed our driver getting out of his bus, walking back to the car, looking round, going into the nearby shop, walking back out with Miss Dad.
So Miss Dad was not in her car at the time of the accident. In fact, she only learnt of the scrape after she'd been found by the bus driver in a nearby shop. Amazingly, Miss Dad still had the nerve to claim for whiplash. On being confronted with the CCTV evidence, Miss Dad withdrew her claim and paid costs and damages to the bus company. But that wasn't the end of it for her.
We were not prepared to let it rest there. We want to send out a clear message to people that they should not try and defraud Arriva. So we passed the papers to the Bedfordshire Police and they decided to prosecute her for fraud.
Shazma Dad pleaded guilty and was given a conditional discharge.
I guess that bus companies are regarded by some people as an easy target, but what I should make clear to them is that bus companies are not easy targets, and in fact we are at the forefront of the fight against fraud.
Insurance fraud isn't all about car crashes and phony neck injuries. Sometimes it targets the finer things in life. This is the headquarters of the Art Loss Register, a specialist team based in central London. When a piece of artwork is lost or stolen anywhere in the world, the Art Loss Register team make it their mission to track it down and get it back. They are led by New York lawyer Chris Marinello.
We are everywhere in every art market throughout the world, but we're really a small team of about 15 to 20 people.
Chris and his crack team of investigators will do whatever it takes to retrieve stolen art.
I coordinate with law enforcement, other lawyers, theft victims, sometimes setting up sting operations in conjunction with law enforcement. Basically, I'm the person who recovers the artwork.
Sometimes the Art Loss Register helps in the fight against fraud.
It used to be that 98% of my cases were simple stolen art cases that were in need of art recovery services. But now maybe 25% will have some insurance fraud element to it.
One piece of art that came to its attention was this 16th century drawing, Portrait of a Man Wearing a Ruff by Ottavio Leoni.
Leoni is not as well known as Picasso or Michelangelo, but his work is very detailed and very popular. He comes from a school of Italian Renaissance artists that were doing a lot of drawings in preparation for more major works.
In 1993, the portrait was stolen from an art dealer's home. After an initial investigation, the Leoni was nowhere to be found. The art dealer received a £10,000 payout from her insurance company, and the details of the stolen art went on the books of the Art Loss Register.
Art is easy to steal, it's transportable, you can hide it easily.
19 years after its disappearance, the portrait reappeared. It was now on the books of London auction house Sotheby's. Sotheby's were unaware that the portrait was stolen, but the Art Loss Register were 100% aware.
Back in January of 2012, we spotted this piece when we were doing routine checking for Sotheby's. And this item matched perfectly with one that had been reported stolen to us in 1993. We contacted the auction house, told them of the match. They pulled the item from the sale, allowing us to sort the matter out.
Chris had contact details for the person selling the portrait, but no idea how they had come by the piece or what kind of person they were. He had to tread carefully. The person who had put the item up for sale could easily be involved in some seriously nasty crimes.
Stolen art trades in the underworld at a rate of maybe 5 or 10% of the true value of the artwork. And they also barter amongst themselves for drugs and for weapons. And we've seen some hard evidence of a connection to international terrorism and the antiquities trade.
Despite the unknown background of the seller, Chris decided to contact them directly. It transpired that the seller wasn't involved in underworld activity, but Chris was surprised at their response to his inquiry.
I said, look, you're selling a stolen work of art. And she said, oh, no, I'm not doing that at all. It was stolen from me. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So you're our theft victim.
The woman was both the current seller and the victim of the 1993 theft. This was a major surprise to Chris. He was determined to get to the bottom of where the painting had been for the last 19 years, so he questioned the woman further.
I said, well, could you tell me the circumstances of how you recovered it? She said, oh, yes, my sister was shopping, found the piece, and then she remembered that it was mine, and she bought it, and then I bought it from her.
Having received £10,000 from her insurance company for the loss of the portrait 19 years earlier, the woman could potentially be facing a fraud charge. However, with no proof that it was anything more sinister than a coincidence, Chris had to believe her. Advised by the original insurer, Chris gave the woman 2 options to avoid criminal proceedings.
Keep the painting and reimburse your insurance company, or release your claim to the piece altogether.
Despite escaping a criminal prosecution, the seller had a wish of her own.
Then she called me and said, do I have to give you the frame? She goes, I paid a lot of money for that frame. And I said, you're just getting by without being charged with insurance fraud, and you're asking me to keep the frame. She goes, you're probably right. Okay, you can have the frame.
With the painting recovered and held safely by the Art Loss Register, Chris entered it into an auction at Bonhams.
The piece has lost value since the insurance company paid out, which happens. And it's possible that this piece could sell for anywhere between £5,000 and £8,000. As crazy as some of the scenarios that I have seen, that would not surprise me if she showed up and bid on this thing again.
Mr. Please, can you open up, please?
Today, officers from the Met Police Traffic Unit are raiding an accident management company suspected of fraud. They've completed a search for evidence at a suspect's flat. DI Hindmarsh has driven to a second location to continue the operation.
I'm outside the accident management company now.
At the premises, DI Hindmarsh is joined by a small team of Met Police officers. They have a member of staff from the company with them. He is under arrest.
So are they scanned onto the computer? Yeah, so really then most of what is in there is scanned on and it's on the computer, yeah? Okay.
The search begins. Nearly everything in the office is placed in evidence bags. Of great interest to the traffic unit is a large quantity of cash found in one of the filing cabinets.
Basically, we're going to end up seizing the majority of this office.
DI Hindmarsh leaves the officers to continue their search as he's needed back at the location of the raided flat.
We're just on our way back to the address of the gentleman who wasn't in, because we've got two vehicles that we believe have been used in this particular crime, and as such, we're going to seize them.
As a result of the investigation into the accident claims company, 7 people have been arrested and charged with conspiracy to defraud. If found guilty, they could each face lengthy jail terms.
We're really, really pleased with the results. This has been about 8 or 9 months of work to get to the arrest phase. So to get the result that we have, yes, we're really, really pleased. But the work continues.